15.5%. Okay. Okay. So the first is derive the average annual growth rate in dividends and assets over the 6 years. So if they tell you 6 years, the growth is becomes 5 years.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to show you a formula he didn't use. He used a calculator.
Right.
You can derive it in that way. For this, I use a different way. It's actually the same that the calculator will use, but for me, it's easier. You say 2 divided by 1.68, and you take this to the power of 1 divided by 5. 5 here is the
In
answer.
years.
Exactly.
The years.
Minus 1. And that way you don't have to put future value, present value, I do it like this, and you will get,
The same?
yeah, you will get 3, yeah, actually the formula does this, the calculator. 3.5486%. So if you do it with the calculator, what calculator are you guys using?
Oh, the
financial?
teacher, yes, the teacher, the financial.
Yeah, well, you do present value. If you do it with the calculator, you put present value is the 1.68
minus
oh yeah, you can put minus here. You put
future
future
value
value 2 and it's equal
and
to
equal
5. Payment
compute
is equal to 0, and then you get what's the interest, and then you will get the annual, and you will get the same. If you do 2 divided by 1.68 to the power 1 divided by 5 minus 1, you get 3548, right? If you do it the other way, you put 1.68 negative present value, 2 future value, 0 payment, 5 and compute. You get the same. 3.5.
Right.
Okay? So it's the same. For assets, you do the same formula or the same method.
Okay.
For assets, if you do it with the calculator, you put present value, it's equal minus 75.4. Future value is equal to 92. And is equal to 5. Payment is equal to 0. And you will get
4.06.
4.06%. Okay. Then he asked about the payout.
How's
Dividend
in
yield
your
payout.
way?
Huh?
Will be in your way will
In my
be
way will be you divide 92 by 75.4 to 1 over 5 minus 1.
okay.
You get the same result. If you're used to using the calculator, just do it with the calculator.
Got it. Yeah.
And this, what you get is, just if you want to know, is what sometimes in the industry you're going to see as CAGR. Compound annual growth rate. And what it means is, if you grow compounded at that rate every year, that's the amount you're going to get. So it's the CAGR.
So basically, you wrote the formula and then convert it back, right? 92 is equal to 75.4 into 1 plus r power 5. So
It's the same formula the calculator uses just for small things like
So
that.
the-
For
you
me, the
can-
formula is faster than the calculator. So, but whatever you want, do you use?
I use PVM formula in Excel.
Yeah, you can use that.
So dividend yield.
And well, no, in Excel you have to use the rate formula, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
when I mentioned PVM, you have all the different, for individual you have different formulas.
Okay. Okay. Then it asks you what is the dividend yield, right?
Yeah.
Dividend yield is very easy. You just say how much the dividend is paying right now. It's $2. What's the price of the share? 55. So what is the yield? 2 divided by 55. It's going to be the yield, and that's going to be
3.64.
3.64%. Okay. So that you know, you take the last dividend
Yeah.
And
divided
divide
by
by the
it.
stock.
If sometimes he tells you that the dividend is growing, the formula, well, no, he won't. It's like that. Because you could say the forward dividend yield or not, but it's like, this is the dividend.
Dividend payout.
The dividend payout. Basically, you have EPS, this is earnings per share. So this is like the net income, but divided by the number of shares.
Yeah.
And you also have what's the dividend per share. So what is the payout? Well, the payout is the dividend per share, that's $2, divided by how much money per share the company made? 4.55. So the dividend divided by the EPS will give you the
43.96.
payout. And that's exactly 43.956. Okay? Then he tells you what is the sustainable growth. And basically, sustainable growth, it's going to be equal.
ROE.
Sustainable growth. It's going to be equal to ROE times 1 minus payout ratio. This is the formula for sustainable growth.
Yeah.
So we already have the payout ratio, and we were given the return on equity.
Right.
So we say 15.5% times 1 minus 43.96%.
We're
And
going
we're
to
gonna get
8.6.
around 8.69. So pretty straightforward.
Yes.
Evaluate the dividend policy of the company.
Well, here, yeah, I do it right now, but if he asks you to evaluate the dividend policy of the company, you can say that,
Sustainability growth is more than the dividend growth.
exactly, dividends are growing higher than the sustainable growth, so the company is going to have trouble in the future.
No,
No.
it's the other way around.
Yeah, it was
Dividends is
3.55.
Dividend growth
I'm sorry, yeah.
Assets are growing
Yeah,
faster.
yeah. Assets are growing faster than
Dividend.
dividends, but still, you're getting,
But still grow is
you're financing the
faster.
growth also with earnings, right? Because you're not giving them much, so the policy seems okay. It could be more,
Yep.
okay?
So they should be able to sustain that dividend.
Okay, the second one, we have a bank. This one is similar to one we did last time. It has 100 billion in assets. With a ROA of 0.8. And equity is equal to 5% of assets. So 5% of 100 billion, we know that equity is 5 billion. Income tax. It's 30% marginal rate. Okay. And then they're asking the bank, this is the bank today, and they're asking the bank to increase liquid assets by 2% of total assets. Okay. And basically, the bank will swap long-term assets that are yielding 5.5% and purchase low yield assets that are gonna yield 0.5%. Second, the bank is asked to issue 3% of total assets in stock and repay debt that costs the bank 8%. Okay. And let's see the well, let's see. And it tells us also that
Given capital
long-term U.S. Treasuries
or the risk-free rate.
yield 2.8. Market risk premium is going to be equal to 5.5. And we think with these changes, beta will decline from 1.35 to 1.20. Okay. So first, let's do the easy part. The easy part is what is the cost of capital. The bank is using long-term treasuries as the risk-free rate. So
Right.
we know that the required rate of return of equity is going to be equal to 2.8 plus beta. So at time 1, that beta was 1.35 times the market risk premium. And at time 2, it's going to be 2.8% times 1.20 times the market risk premium. Correct? And that will give us that beta is going to be 10.225 and 9.4. Okay?
Yes.
So with the changes, our cost of equity declines because our volatility of returns declines, and therefore the lower risk, lower return, our cost of equity decreases. Okay. But let's see what happens to ROE and ROA with the changes. So the first change, we have we're changing long-term assets that are yielding 5.5 for lower-term assets that are yielding 0.5. So if we don't have the long-term assets, we say 2% of 100, we are talking about 2 billion or 2,000 million assets that were making for us a net income of 5.5%. But we pay taxes on this, so this is times 1 minus our marginal tax rate, that is 30%. Okay.
2 million, right? It's 2 million.
2 billion. Yes, 2,000 million. That's equal to 2 billion.
Oh, 2 million.
Okay.
Oh, 2
So we can say 5.5 times 0.70 times 2,077 million. Our net income decreases by 77 million. But we're investing this 2,000, and I'm doing this step by step so you understand.
Right.
We are not just gonna leave the 2,000 uninvested. We're gonna make 0.5. So this times 0.5% times 1 minus 30 to get the net after taxes. and that gives 0.5. Seven. Net income increases by 7. Okay? So the first change of swapping long-term assets for short-term assets will give us a net in the net income of
70.
net income. It's gonna decrease net $70 million. Okay. And the second thing, we're gonna issue $3 billion in stock and repay debt that is costing us 8%. So equity, it's going to increase from 5 billion because we have 5% plus the new equity we're going to issue. 3% of 100 billion is 3 billion. So equity, it's going to increase from 5 to 8 billion.
Right.
That's what I think we're going to calculate. And what's the effect of not having the debt in net income? Net income is going to increase because we're not going to have that cost. So what is the cost? Well, we have debt that we had 3%, that's 3 billion or 3,000 million. And that debt was costing us 8.0%, but we had a tax shield of 30%. So, so we say 8% times 0.7 times 3,000. So net income is going to increase by 168. So 168 increase minus a 70 decrease, we get a 98 net income net of all changes will increase by 98 million. Okay? If we take 98 million divided by 100 billion because our assets did not change, we get that our return on assets increased
Not listen.
where is we were having, let me one second. Okay, yeah. So what is our net income now? Our net income before, I didn't actually write it. Our net income before was
8.8%. 80
million. 0.8
Right.
of 100 billion?
800.
800 million,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
80.
800.
Yeah, one.
0.8%,
Yes. 1.
0.8
And less than 1 billion.
times 100 billion, it's 0.8 billion or 800 million. So we have 800 where we started,
Right.
and the net here was an increase of 98, correct? Plus 98, we have 898. This is our new net income.
Oh.
Alright? With assets did not change.
Right.
So remember that ROA is net income divided by assets.
Right.
So before, our ROA was 0.80.
Right.
So now, 898 divided by 100, our new ROA, it's equal to 0.898. Or, if you want to round, about 0.9. Okay? So,
What is the net income you got? 205?
net income, my initial net income was 800 million. After the regulatory changes, it's 898. So why did net income go up? Basically because we paid debt,
Right.
and that debt decreased the net income an amount higher than the decrease in income that we had from swapping long-term assets to short-term assets.
Right.
So return on assets went up. what about return on equity? Well, initially we had 800 and we had 800 million and 5 billion in equity. So our initial return on equity, 800 divided by 5,000, was 16%.
800,
Return on equity,
right?
it's equal of 800, this is net income, divided by equity plus 5 billion, this is millions, and this is equity, and this was equal to 16%. So remember that our initial cost of capital was 10%.
Right.
We were having a return on equity of 16%.
Right.
So we were doing better than our return on equity was better than our required return on equity.
Right.
So what is the meaning of that? Probably this bank, the holding company,
Right.
was trading above book value because the bank is creating value.
Right.
Okay? With the regulatory changes, our new return on equity is going to change. Now we're not making 800. Now we're making more. We're making 898. But now we don't have 5,000 million of equity.
Equity,
We have
no more.
8,000.
Right.
So 598 divided by 8,000. Now our new ROA is 11.23%. So you see that actually
Go down, went
our
down.
decrease was 4.77,
Right.
while our decrease in the cost of required rate of return or cost of capital
Right.
was a lot less. So actually this change affected the value of the holding company of the bank. Because that premium, still the bank is creating value. But the delta of the value creation now it's a lot less than before. So the premium above book value will get reduced. And it's going to negatively affect shareholders. So this exercise, this part is very similar to what we did last time. And the rest is just, actually everything is very similar to what we did last time.
Argentina no pasa nada. Messi.
I didn't get the description. Our ROA has increased from
Our what?
ROA 0.8
Yeah,
to
ROA
0.9.
increased,
0.8 to
but
0.9.
ROE decreased.
ROE decreased from
And decreased
0.16
substantially.
to, yeah,
And even though
the
with-
book value has
with-
increased.
Yeah, because the book value of equity has increased.
Yeah, in general, the book assets have increased, so the book value.
No, the assets have not increased.
0.9 is increased.
No.
ROA, return on assets is increased.
That's different.
Yeah.
Assets are 100 million before, 100
100
million
million
after.
after.
Assets did not
Will
change.
change,
What
yeah.
changed is net income, the return we get from those assets.
Mm.
Why did that return change? Because we paid debt and we increased equity. So remember that equity has no cost on the balance sheet, but debt has,
Yes.
right? The dividend is not a cost,
Mm.
but the payment on debt is a cost.
Yes.
So by replacing debt with equity, our net income went up.
Mm.
That increased return on assets, but return on equity decreased because we're making a little bit more money with a lot more capital. So that reduces our return on equity. And even though, because the counter argument is the more equity you have, the less volatility might be in the returns because you are less leveraged, right? So being less leveraged will give you less volatility, and that should reduce your beta. As we saw, the beta decreased. But the change in that cost of equity was tiny compared to the change in the return on equity that you saw. So actually, that destroyed value for the bank, those changes. It hurt shareholders. Okay, number 3 is really easy. You have basically a bank holding company called Comerica, and they tell you some of the characteristics, and then they ask you what is the cost of equity with the CAPM bond premium model, and what is the deviation of your cost of equity is. So with the CAPM, as you saw,
Remember he asked you and you said 10%?
yeah.
I remember. Another guy said 9 something.
Yeah, I mean, there's no wrong or right in this. What happened is one result gave you 9.84, the other one gave you 10. So the other person, what he did, he took the average of both. What I did was actually round up, because if you want to be conservative, you use a higher amount. You could use average. There's no right or wrong, because it's two different methodologies. You couldn't say take the average, but usually there's error implied there too. So I was just conservative. I took the higher value. Okay, so with the CAPM, as we saw before, CAPM says that cost of equity is equal to risk-free plus beta times risk market risk premium. So here we have long-term U.S. Treasury bonds currently yield 2.8. So we have 2.8 plus, and the company has a beta of 1.28 times, and it tells you two equity risk premium, but it said the one applicable to the CAPM is 5.5. So this gives us 9.84%. With the bond premium, what it says is that you're going to get the cost of debt for the company plus an equity premium. Okay? And here it tells us that the equity premium, they calculated 5.0%. And they tell us the company debt is A3 and the bank debt is A2. We're seeing the cost of the holding company, so we take the grade of the bank, that is A3. High grade debt currently yields 4.3. Medium grade debt yields 5, and low grade yields 6. A3 is a medium grade.
How do you know that?
There's a table in the slides that you can refer to.
Yeah.
But usually you're gonna have A, triple A, double A, triple B. Triple B, above triple B is investment grade.
Yes, for
Everything
example.
below is low grade.
Okay.
So this
Moody.
is called medium. This is like medium high, and this is higher grade.
For example, Alejandro here.
How this is Moody's.
Yeah.
According to teacher will do.
Medium grade,
How because it's A3.
yeah, upper medium. That's what I said. A3, what it means, the numbers,
Right.
it means it's A, but 3 is the lowest. You have 1, 2, 3
Correct.
that they put. If you are triple B 1, that means you're the highest triple B. You're almost an A.
Oh,
One little notch. It's like to make differences between all triple B. If you're triple B 2, you're like in the middle. If you're triple B 3, you might get a downgrade You know, you are in the lower. So this is you are like medium, and
Okay.
medium was paying 5.
Right.
So
Yes.
5
Plus 5.
plus 5 it's equal 10%. So then which one is the cost? Well, you can actually take the average, take the lowest, or take the highest. If you take the average, it's going to give you 0.99,
92.
and then you can round up. So,
But
So the third piece, the cost of equity, we can take the average of the above two.
I mean, you can take the average, you can take the higher. Different people do different things. You can just say, you know, it's around here. So this one is easy. So it's not hard. We can break real fast.
¿estás resfriado, Tom?